Okay, so recap where we're at, what's happening. Let's accelerate through those first days.
All right, Alex. We're at a junction in Country Road called Merriam's Corner between Lexington and Concord. Militia had been pouring into the area all day. Not a simple battle plan where people were firing from behind rocks and trees like we've been led to believe. This is a sophisticated plan put together by a self-educated, self-appointed general by the name of William Heath, a book dealer from Massachusetts who sat and read every military text that he could find. And he was the appointed military leader for the colony of Massachusetts. They began a series of ambushes against the British. And these were well thought out and planned. It was what he called a circle of fire. As the British moved down the road, new elements of militia would move down the road ahead of them and set up, and as the British passed, they'd shoot them to pieces, sometimes from behind rocks and trees, usually in good order from well back off the road. The British had to put out a lot of their troops as flankers to keep these groups from getting together, and when the small groups of British flankers went out to do that, they didn't have as much firepower, and they became prime targets. So the militia kept up a running fire against the British all along. General Gage must have had some idea that these people were going to be in trouble because he sent out a force under a fellow named Lord Percy to reinforce them and supplement their numbers. I guess he knew they were going to run into trouble. The Lord Percy was a typical British gentleman, a member of the peerage, thought well of himself, and the only main thing that he really had to say when he wrote back after it, I had the pleasure of keeping them from being exterminated, because the militia fire was so heavy on the British regulars when he came up, they were about to lose it completely. They were fired upon the entire way back, and this is where those people, those common people, went out and did their stuff. Most of the old men were in what were called the alarm bands because it was thought that they were too old to fight. So you go out and you give the alarm, you collect the intel, you let us know when the regulars are coming. A lot of these guys didn't do that. So they had men like Hezekiah Wyman. It was his birthday. April 19th was his birthday. I believe he was 55 years old. And his wife said, "You're too old to fight." He got on his good white mare, took his musket, and went out and, as a one-man force, took on the British. He'd pop up ahead of them, get off, rest his musket across the horse, take a shot at him, get on the horse and ride away down the road and do it again. The grim, gray-haired messenger of mortality, mounted on death's pale horse. You don't run into people like that anymore.
All right, we're going to tell more of these stories when we get back on the other side, continuing with how this unfolded. And 75-year-old men, 80-year-old men involved in the fight, how many British got killed that day, what it led to, and then getting into the modern reawakening of the riflemen here in the United States.
Hello, friends. This is Alex Jones. I've told you for a long time it's important to be self-sufficient, and today that's more important than ever. We need to be independent, and food and water is the key. You'll never have to stand in a bread line if you have your own bread. You'll never have to go to the Superdome and beg for FEMA to take care of your family in any emergency if you simply prepare. Our elected representatives wanted a good old boy bailout for the special interest, so they ignored your